Woman who hadn't cut her hair in 30 years surprises her fiance with a huge makeover. Back to school, job interview, midlife crisis, all roads lead to the hair salon. Nothing makes you feel ready to take charge of your life quite like a fresh haircut. At least that's how it is for most people. But not for one Florida woman who did whatever she could to stay clear of sharp objects that threatened her prized ponytail. She'd spent years with a security blanket of extremely long locks, but when she was about to begin a new phase of her life, she settled into the salon chair and was unprepared for how drastically her life would change. Holly had really long hair. We're talking Rapunzel-level tresses, down to her waist. It always needed to be twisted, plaited, or piled up for her to function without being caught up in a tangle of unruliness. Each morning, Holly's hair routine included brushing and taming her mane, putting on her uniform and heading to her job as a gate guard. In her job, utility and function were key, and that mind frame seeped over into how she viewed beauty. For as long as she remembered, she had the longest hair around. Holly with the long hair is how everyone knew her. It was part of her identity. The idea of cutting her tresses would be like changing her whole personality. Fast approaching, though, was her wedding. When she pictured the big day, at the moment her fiancé saw her gliding up the aisle, there was a big old question mark as to how she would style her hair. One morning in the spring of 2017, Holly woke up inspired. Since hunkering down with wedding prep, she was forced to reckon with one hard truth. The girl needed a haircut. After years of avoiding scissors, she was ready to make the chop. She walked into Avant-Garde Salon with a stomach full of knots. They whisked her off to the hot seat as she explained that she was looking for a total transformation. She soon realized she'd chosen the perfect place. Jeremy Harfield, a stylist at the salon, took one look at Holly's two-tone, yellow blonde locks and was itching to work his magic. Any hairdresser worth their salt loves nothing more than providing a client with a life-altering change. Holly was the ideal canvas. With a reassuring pat on the shoulder, Jeremy told Holly to say goodbye to the old, gathered her hair into sections, and snipped off over 2 feet of hair. In seconds, the weight that she carried for years instantly lifted. Holly looked like a different person, and her haircut had only just begun. When she stared into the mirror at the ends of her hair grazing her shoulders, she admitted something that she'd always clung to about femininity and attractiveness. Once Jeremy finished cutting, Holly couldn't stop running her fingers through her cropped modern bob. Getting emotional, she explained that she feared cutting off so much hair would make her look less conventionally beautiful, an insecurity that sounded in her head since childhood. Next up was color. Stylist Sarah Pastella took over, and they shared a heart-to-heart while she worked. Holly shared that her father had planted the seed of doubt about cutting her hair years before, and she subconsciously held on to it. In an interview with the magazine Modern Salon, Sarah explained what Holly told her. She always felt like she needed to keep her hair long because of what her dad said, that a woman must have long hair or she wouldn't be pretty without it. Luckily, the team snipped away that idea along with her hair. She had nothing but time to kill in the salon chair, so she grew accustomed to the new look. In total, it took from 7 p.m. until 2 a.m. the following day. No makeover is complete without a full head-to-toe finish. Once her hair had reached perfection, the salon team moved Holly over into the makeup's chair where she knew the exact colors to reveal her inner bombshell. At the end of her appointment, no one, including Holly, could recognize the woman who'd first walked in the door. She gaped at herself in the mirror, blown away by her transformation. Soon, she learned her makeover was one for the books. Before and after photos of Holly circled the web, gaining Avant-Garde Salon tons of attention. In fact, the makeover was nominated for Transformation Shot of the Year. Her final step in her fairy tale was to stomp the runway in front of an audience. Styled to the nines in a white jumpsuit, Holly grinned on the catwalk as the audience roared. It was no contest. Avant-Garde scooped the prize. It gave her team invaluable exposure, so they brainstormed a way to give back to their muse. The owners of Avant Garde decided that Holly's makeover was just the beginning of her journey to loving her new look. For the next year, all of her appointments to keep her hair up to its elevated standard would be completely free of charge. Feeling the effects of her glamorous due, Holly quit her job as a gate guard and ended up back at the hub of where it all began, the salon, of course. She started working as their receptionist and took another spin in the colorist's chair. This time there was no fear, just sheer delight over hair experimentation. Holly opted to turn her platinum bob into a trendy purple one. After a few months, she said farewell and returned to her old job for financial reasons. Cutting her hair was Holly's way of starting fresh in the next chapter of her life. Once she spends a few decades as a married woman, she can bust out the makeover card to spice up her relationship. That trick worked wonders for Kevin and Joe. Not many believe in love at first sight, but that was definitely the case for Kevin and Joe Taylor. The couple first met in high school in 1967, when Kevin was just 16, and Joe was a full 2 years younger. Even in those days, Kevin and Joe were inseparable. They studied together, played together, and even partied together. Yet the thing that seemed to bond the couple most was their shared love of adventure. For them, each day brought a new opportunity to explore and push the boundaries, and they did so in the carefree way that all kids seem to. But life catches up with you eventually, and Kevin and Joe soon embarked on a new kind of adventure: parenthood. One after another, the couple welcomed 5 children into the world, effectively putting their days of carefree living on hold. Yet this newfound responsibility did little to quell their adventurous spirits, and as their family grew and grew, they still found ways to live life to the fullest. When Kevin and Joe's 50th anniversary came around, the wrinkles and gray hair still weren't enough to stop them from living a life of adventure. On the back of Kevin's motorcycle, they looked nothing like the kind of people you'd call Grandma and Grandpa. But alas, they were. And whether they felt their age or not, they certainly looked it. The hustle and bustle that came with 50 years of child and grandchild rearing had certainly taken its toll. And for Kevin and Joe, self-care had fallen way down their list of priorities. By this time, Kevin's once well-groomed beard now hung way down to his chest, and Joe's flowing locks had grown matted and unkempt. They knew they needed to make a change, but where would they even start? While Kevin and Joe debated their next move, their family was already one step ahead. Right beneath their noses, Kevin and Joe's children and grandchildren were planning to give them an unforgettable anniversary present. But things wouldn't be as simple as just buying a gift. The family was looking to get Kevin and Joe on the Today Show's Ambush Makeover for their much-needed style revamp, though there was no guarantee that the couple would be picked for the segment. Regardless of the odds, they took a shot, and miraculously, Kevin and Joe made the cut. This was one huge hurdle out of the way for the thoughtful family, but now came the hard part: convincing their parents to actually appear on the show. After talking it over, the family came right out to Kevin and Joe with their plan. Framing the experience as the adventure of a lifetime, Joe was fully on board with the idea, but Kevin wasn't so sure it was for him. In fact, Kevin flat out refused the moment the family told him. His biggest fear was that the stylist would end up completely removing his beard, which he felt was an integral part of his look and identity. Ultimately, Kevin decided to go for it, admitting that his beard was definitely getting too long to handle. With both parents in agreement, the children reached out to the show and accepted the offer. Their plan was officially a go. When the big day arrived, Kevin and Joe showed up to the studio the only way they knew how: on the back of Kevin's motorcycle. The couple was curious as to how the day would play out, but as they'd done with every adventure before, they welcomed this new experience with open minds. Thankfully, they'd soon find themselves in very good hands. Their main stylist was set to be none other than the legendary Louis Licari. And with TV personality Jill Martin at his side, it appeared that Kevin and Joe were truly in for the makeover of a lifetime. But even in such capable hands, Kevin and Joe couldn't help but feel a little nervous about the experience. With so much history between the two and their hair, they both silently worried that losing it would be like losing part of themselves. The moment of truth finally arrived, and the couple swallowed their fear as they were separated for the first time in decades to undergo their transformations. And when all was said and done, not even they could believe their eyes. Joe looked like a completely different person. Her long hair had been cut, styled, and colored, and the makeup they'd put on her made her look 10 years younger. She'd even exchanged her baggy, ill-fitting clothes for a fashionable fitted jacket. Kevin looked equally as amazing. Clad in a black suit and sporting a brand new haircut, Kevin emerged with a bouquet of flowers to present to his beloved. And even despite his protests, he let the stylist cut and dye his beard, making him look suave and well-kept. Never in their wildest dreams could they have imagined a makeover this drastic. But beneath it all, they knew it was their love for one another that kept them together all these years, not appearances. But with newfound confidence, Kevin and Joe were now ready to make these next 50 years even more memorable.